Hi everyone. This is an interview that we're doing with Charlotte and Josh from Mushroom, and we're talking today about remote working because I know this has been a big area that we've discussed a lot in the office, and we felt it was something really important, and a lot of clients are asking about it, and so we just wanted to do this discussion for you because hopefully it will help you too. So before we get started, Charlotte and Josh. Charlotte first, do you want to just introduce yourself so we all know who you are?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm the HR services lead at Mushroom. Um,
What do you do? You do everything. What does Charlotte do?
what do I
What
say
can't she
after
do?
that? All right, I ruined that. Never mind. Yeah. So I look a lot of at. We've had a lot of questions from our clients at the moment about remote working, so home working policies, making sure they're watertight, making sure staff are getting on okay at home, and this is quite a common concern we're having at the moment as people start wondering about whether to get their staff back into the workplace. So yeah.
Absolutely. And Josh, could you introduce yourself,
Yes.
please?
So my name's
Hopefully
Josh.
without the giggles.
Let's hope so. My name's Josh. I work with Charlotte and Kim and the rest of the team in the commercial services division. I am a paralegal in their division, but I also assist one of our group companies with their data protection activities and compliance. So I do a lot of different things surrounding data and the commercial services division.
Okay, and actually, I forgot that I didn't introduce myself. So my name is Kim Marshall, and I work part-time at Mushroom, doing various bits of admin, some marketing, doing some client work, billing, and all sorts of kind of things. So that's me. Okay, so with remote working, we were told that if we could work from home, that we should. Um, and we continue to do so. But is that, can everybody keep working from home long term? What do businesses need to consider and what do they need to do?
Charlotte,
Charlotte,
you wanna?
should I
Yeah.
go for
Well, first, obviously, it depends on the type of business you have and how many of those tasks either currently being carried out well by staff working at home or not so well, and whether you think your perception of home working has changed. Because I'm sure for a lot of companies, this would be their first foray into having staff work on a more long-term basis at home. And they will face challenges definitely, but some might see that it's been very positive. I would recommend that the first thing that you should do before you make any um, long-term changes about whether to continue staff working at home is actually just to check in with your staff and see how they're getting on and they're feeling, and as well as looking at their performance stats and how they've been performing against their targets and similar things.
So basically ask them how they feel about it all.
Yes, because I think if if you leave it for too long and you're not proactive at checking them they're okay, just because they worked fine for the last month, you shouldn't take it as a given that that will continue. So you just need to be really make sure, because you're not seeing them every day in the office, that that communication's still there, and that if they do have any issues that they can come to, or any opportunities they might have, suggestions about how they think home working could be made better or remote working could um, be integrated into the normal working environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
And
think I
Josh?
think Charlotte. Yeah, I think Charlotte makes an excellent point. It really is done on a case by case basis. You can't necessarily apply the guidance to every business, and each business needs to conduct its own assessment. One thing that Charlotte's mentioning about the communication, again, yes, communication is very important with the employees, but you don't want to also be taken for a ride by them. The communication needs to be in place, but it's also important that you have the correct procedures and policies available to hand to explain and educate the staff on what's expected of them, and how that individual business deals with home working as a process. I think that's the best thing. It's better than having it up in the air and there's no uniformity. If you standardize the process, then that can only assist the business in making the decision.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say, Josh, are the benefits of kind of working from home or remote working?
Well, I think from my own perspective, I don't know if you guys have felt, but I feel now that I do work from home, I have a lot more autonomy over my day-to-day planning and the way I complete my various tasks. One thing that I think not necessarily is a benefit, but what I have benefited from is because we're working from home, it's important for us to plan our day and ensure that we have good time management skills. And I think having now worked from home, that is, really assisted me in strengthening my time management skills, because the TV is only a few steps away, but it's important to be able to remain focused and to be able to complete client work and ensure deadlines are met.
Absolutely. And Charlotte, what about you?
I think like a real plus working from home is there is more time where you can focus. Obviously, if you're in an office, I mean, most people have phone systems and everything like that still set up, but you do have the pros of working independently, in that if you have a project or something that you need to focus on without distractions, obviously that is completely dependent on personal situation, because if you have children or pets even, you could get more distractions than you would actually get in the office every day. But I think it definitely makes you change, and it also makes you assess how you've worked currently and how you work in the past, because as Josh says, you do definitely have more autonomy and get more say in perhaps how you're completing targets, or even just being able to work that bit later in the day without fearing about getting kicked out the office when you do need a deadline to be met, and you can be a bit flexible there. But obviously that comes with pitfalls, but we'll discuss that later.
Absolutely. I mean, I find that I've not made many cups of tea for myself being at home. I know, sort of like, the big old tea run is not happening anymore. So I'm kind of having water, which is probably a good thing health-wise. So
Definitely.
yeah, absolutely. And what about the disadvantages?
So one thing that Charlotte mentioned is something that I don't know if it's the same for you, but I think it would be the same for most, if not all, individuals in this situation, is that because we're working from home, it affects the way the way we plan our day, but also we tend working later than we should. There's been many a time that I've looked outside and it's like 7:30 at night or 7:45 at night. It's like, oh, I should stop, and no, I need to stop working. And the problem is, particularly with this country and the way that it's always so light until late at night, you lose track of time, and you end up working longer than you should. And we're lucky in that we have a really good management that tries to impress upon us the importance of stopping, taking breaks, making sure we eat, making sure we drink, making sure we take some time out, and work can be completed tomorrow. And the more later you work, it could possibly have an impact on your mental health. So I think that it would be a disadvantage, I would say. What about you, Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely found it's hard. You have to be really proactive at setting boundaries, because you haven't got that luxury of just being able to go home at the end of the day, shut the door in the office, and you don't think about it until the next day. For example, you just hear your phone pinging or your laptop going, and as the emails come in and phone calls, and there isn't that distance anymore. So I think you have to be really proactive at going, right, this is the time I need to finish today. I think it's good that you have some flexibility at times, but it's just making sure you're keeping a watch on it, and like it's just saying that you're not burning all the hours every day just because you can, and there's no one there telling you, look, it's the end of the working day, you should be stopping now and going home. And I think also, I mean, I think also at the moment, because obviously we're just coming out of lockdown and stuff as well, probably only just starting to actually have social events in our calendars again. So to actually make us walk away from our laptops. But yeah, so I definitely think there's some disadvantages there. And I also think, you miss the kind of social interaction connection with your colleagues every day, because you might call them up when you need some help on a task or something, but like you said, you don't go around the office making all cups of tea and catching up and asking, how was your weekend, how getting on. There's none of that kind of break in your day when you can just have a laugh and joke with your colleagues. And
yeah, I'm very out of touch with the
Yeah.
office gossip, the office gossip at the moment. It's really bad. I know nothing that's going on because I don't have my
There
tea
is
runs
nothing,
anymore.
Josh. There is
Well,
nothing.
it's always nice to find the saucy details, but yeah, no, I completely agree with what Charlotte's saying. It's important just to
Yeah,
set those boundaries.
yeah, because when we have regular team meetings, but we don't have that kind of chat, do we? We're just sort of very work focused.
Well, little do
And
you know, me and Charlotte spend the whole day speaking.
Yeah.
in your Slack messages.
Yeah.
Exactly, just sending the memes, doing nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, and that is a big thing, isn't it? And I suppose kind of like because I have my own business as well, it's something that I have had to learn to do, is to sort of like not work all hours. But I guess that gives us a kind of, because we work with a lot of businesses, and particularly small businesses, kind of like one-man band kind of companies and that, and these are the sort of like some of the struggles that they have, and hence why we can come in and help them kind of do some of the work for them, so they have more time to themselves, etc. So okay, and what about, I know we sort of touched briefly about the mental health, but that is a big sort of, particularly with the whole COVID-19, the lockdown, mental health is really sort of being talked about now. So have you got anything else? I know we kind of briefly spoke about it, but anything else to add about mental health and what kind of business can be doing, what they could be looking out for, how they could be helping?
I think one thing I remember seeing in the news recently that there's certain charities and governmental bodies have indeed raised concerns about mental health, and there is actual guidance on the government website surrounding mental health in the workplace, and the sort of steps and things that you can take. But particularly for vulnerable individuals, if we're looking at this idea of now we're coming out of lockdown, and the government has said, right, if you can work from home, you should do so, but businesses can start coming back to some semblance of normality, getting the workplace back. It's important to recognize that there may be individuals who are vulnerable, and by forcing them to return to the office, that could have a very deliberative effect on their mental health. With anxiety disorders and this idea of the fear of the unknown, we don't know what's going to happen, and for individuals who are already stressed and already caring for their elderly grandparents, or having them return to work and now have to be in close proximity to other individuals, that's a definite risk that businesses need to consider, and how they're going to manage that risk and mitigate it.
I guess that's right. It's going to be very individual, isn't it? And there's going to be people who can't wait to get back into the office, and then there's going to be others who, like you say, maybe have anxiety disorders or some other mental health issues existing, or people maybe shielding for this sort of like amount of time, and it feels all very strange going back. So yeah, it's very individual, I imagine. What about you, Charlotte? Have you anything from you about mental health?
I think a lot of people have reported feeling isolated, because if you're not consistently making an effort with your staff to check in with them and see how they are, not always through meetings, but just having an informal phone call, because I do think that is a bit of a danger, is that everything, because we're not just bumping into each other in office corridors anymore, you're having to formally schedule something with someone, and I think you still need to keep that informality there, just to make it seem a bit more approachable. But I also think there's two sides of the spectrum, because you have other fears that are coming into place now, like some people's workloads have greatly increased, some have reduced, and all of that has a part to play in mental health and thinking about the future and where it's going. And I think you can, again, it's that you're not just having that opportunity to discuss with colleagues and maybe feel like you're going through the same thing. You might feel a bit like I'm the only one feeling like
Yeah,
this,
left in the lurch.
or I think a common thing people are saying is that, you feel guilty because you have nothing to feel anxious about if have the opportunity to work from home. Nothing's like happened to your family or anything,
Yeah.
and so I think it's just making sure that you're keeping that checking, making sure that everybody's okay, and you can come to a solution that works for the business and for the employee.
At the same time, it's a particularly from the risk assessment side of things. All businesses must, in terms of the health, I think it's the management of health and working regulations of 1999. They have employers have an obligation to complete a risk assessment. Yeah, I think it's the management of health and safety at work regulations of 1999. Employers have an obligation to conduct risk assessments. And one thing that you can do is not only make sure that that risk assessment is done, but identify these areas and get in consultation with your staff and try and work out where are those pressure points and where do we think there will be issues, and then put things in to help manage that process.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it sounds like there's that sort of, from what Charlotte was saying, there's definitely that making space to have that regular communication, be it informal and almost kind of giving everybody the opportunity to be able to regularly kind of like check in and stuff. And it doesn't even matter whether, if everybody's still okay, it's kind of like still having that check-in to know that you can kind of, that if you haven't got a problem, it's not such a big deal because there's that space there to kind of be able to talk through it.
I
Yeah.
think it's a
Okay.
big thing in like performance. It goes into performance management. It's if you are only making if you invite people to formal meetings, quite often they feel very defensive because your automatic response is, I've done something wrong, that
Yeah.
I'm not used to having like meetings with my manager, something must have happened. And if you're just doing it on a regular basis and you're making it completely like normal that you check in with them and you're giving the opportunity, then people are much more willing to actually be honest and say what they're feeling.
Absolutely. So I guess things like appraisals and things, it's really important to keep those going and stuff, even though you're kind of working from home. Yeah.
I think a lot of this is about being able, if you're working from home, you have to make sure you have we'll talk about technology later, but for example, if you have appraisals and performance management opportunities like that you have a system where you have got the video software there so you can actually chat and can conduct these things online and remotely, as well as being in an office, and also trialing it and seeing if it works, and not just hoping that, asking colleagues, did you feel any differently because we did that online? Would you have preferred to do that in like an office setting? But obviously you just have to be pragmatic at the end of the day, but it's just making sure you know how to be able to hold these procedural things online as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh, you mentioned about sort of with mental health and that the fear of the unknown, and so it's really important to kind of like for everybody sort of to talk about their expectations, so everybody can, as far as, I mean, because this has been like something we've never known, and it's sort of, even now we're sort of like, hopefully coming out of it, but there's kind of people talking about second wave and everybody sort of talking about one thing or another.
I
So
think
it's
it's
really
funny.
important. Go
I
on.
was just going to say, I think it's funny that you mentioned this aspect of expectations, because one of our clients, I firmly believe that businesses must set reasonable expectations on their staff. And there's a lot of chatter going around, well, what happens when the staff member doesn't want to return to the office? And you've done the risk assessment, you've put in the controls, and then the individual's just like, no, I don't want to return to the office because I don't feel safe. As long as they provide, conclude, very in-depth and reasonable reasons, then the businesses need to take account of that. But the idea of setting expectations is important. One of our clients, we actually helped him with his grant application. So he managed to get some cash from the grant, and when he was looking to reintegrate his staff members into the business, he wanted to hold a really nice Michelin star restaurant team meeting and just say, come everyone, come back and let's get everyone and have a nice meeting. It's been horrible these last few months, but you know what, we're going to give it our all and we're going to make this business a success. And he offered this to them, and just for context, he sent out an email saying, guys, okay, we're going to return to work on Friday, and in anticipation on that, on Monday, let's all go to this restaurant and let's go out and have a good meal and get everyone motivated. And half the staff members came back and said, no, I don't want to come to the office, but I'll definitely come to the restaurant. So it's like, how can you say, no, I don't want to come to the office, but you're happy for the business to pay for you to go to this fancy restaurant? It's about setting those expectations and being pragmatic in the circumstances, but put your foot down as a business if the staff aren't pulling their weight and trying to pull the wool over your eyes. It's your business at the end of the day, so you need to grab it by the horns and where needed, give people a little bit of a kick to make sure that they're following the rules and playing ball.
Yeah, and I think related to that is a point about holidays, because I think a lot of businesses are going to face this now. They're all looking at the holiday calendars going, I'm going to have loads of holiday staff who still have 20 days holiday at the end of the year because they wouldn't have been able to go anywhere without facing being quarantined for 2 weeks, or they've just been busy, or they've been furloughed, or whatever reason. And I think it's really important for that as well, again, for mental health, because even if you're not going away, you still need those breaks from work, those days off where you can recuperate. But also from a business perspective, you need to ask and prompt your staff to take their holiday, so you haven't got a situation later in the year when hopefully your business is picking up again, or we've reached some sort of normality, fingers crossed, and everybody's got all these holiday days to take, and then you're not going to know what to do because the staff are entitled to their 5.6 weeks a year, statutory law. But so you just need to make sure you're keeping on top of all those little administrative things.
So just managing that, really, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and you mentioned about technology earlier. So what technology would you say is helpful?
I think definitely you need to have a conversation with staff and set out how they can contact, both internally and externally, like who can you contact if you're having an issue with this? What's your escalation process? But then also, just to carry out day-to-day tasks, for example, like answering the phone, you need to make sure you can. Usually we'd all be in office with a desk conference type phone that's like a handset, but now we need to, run those systems online, either through a VoIP system or some other soft phone system, so you can still keep on top with client demands and any other phone calls you might be getting. So,
as well as I know from Mushroom perspective, we moved over to the cloud, and it has made actual work a lot easier, both in terms of collaboration and document preparation, and particularly with spreadsheets. Everyone knows that you do a spreadsheet and then you send it to someone else to do, and then they amend it, and then you send it back, and then there's a difference in the spreadsheet. Having the online capabilities in order to directly and at that time edit the document live, it helps. It does help in terms of version control and making sure that work is being completed and who's editing the information, and it's good to keep track of that. But you guys mentioned, obviously, any form of technology you use does come with it associated risks, and whether you're using Zoipa, whether you're using Google Meets, Zoom, all the rest of these video conferencing technologies, or you're using your Gmails, your Outlooks for your email boxes, any form of technology you use, you just need to be aware that it comes with certain risk, particularly surrounding data protection and GDPR and personal data. I'm not going to get into it because that'll be a talk in itself. And I've been known, particularly from the recent podcasts, I'm that privacy guy that won't shut up about privacy. So I'm not going to go into it. But from a home working perspective, just because people are at home doesn't mean that data protection takes a backseat. It doesn't mean that health and safety takes a backseat. The rules still apply whether or not you're working from home, and particularly because you're working from home, it should be even more important to make sure that you have technical and organizational measures in place to ensure that the laptops they use at home are secure, that they are password protected, that individuals who shouldn't have access to it, like your partners or your children or anyone who's in your household, that they shouldn't be able to see the work that's on your computer, because it could be confidential information, or it could be personal data of other individuals. So you should always ensure that your home working policies account for data protection, and have sections dedicated to what is expected of individuals when they're working from home. And have the right processes in place. If you're working from home, it's very easy, because you're not subject to that all-seeing eye of the boss on my back there, always constantly watching me. I know she doesn't, but because you're not in the office, you might be more prone to making mistakes. So you just need to be cautious and make sure you have the correct procedures in place, even including data breach procedures. If you do commit a data breach, it should be just as easy to report it and remediate it from working from home as it would be if you're in the office.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I read this morning that the biggest sort of like sector of the market, which has had a huge boost since lockdown, is sort of like cybersecurity. Which it's no wonder, really, is there? But okay. Any other technology you wanted to mention?
The other one is, if you have a company intranet or something like that, or a platform that you can manage HR, like we've spoken about holidays, and actually sickness is a problem at the moment. A lot of people working from home, when you have a bad cold, hopefully not COVID, but when you're feeling sick and you're working from home, the presenteeism is higher than it's ever been, because people are more likely to work when they're sick now than they would have been in the office.
Yeah, exactly.
You can just work in your pajamas, as long as you don't have any video calls that day. So just have all those systems in place that staff know how to like book their holidays, like book sick days, if reporting procedures. Obviously, if staff are coming into the office every day, when they're coming in, when they're not, because you can see. But if they're all at home, it's just making sure that you're really clear with that, and technology can help there. So at Mushroom, we're partners with the HR provider of a software platform where you can book holidays and manage sickness and make training requests and even time record. I think everything like that. Time recording is also a thing if you want to make sure that your staff are still working their hours, or there's all different ways of doing it, and you just have to assess what your company needs, what you wouldn't have to do every day if you're in the office, but you might have to consider if staff were working from home, and just making sure everybody, if you're putting all these steps into place, I think the most important thing is making sure your staff all have access to Wi-Fi, and just simple things like that, just making sure everybody's set up so they can be as productive and able to do their job as they were if they were in the office.
Absolutely. And I guess if you're a small company, there's sort of like you say, there's technology and there's software to sort of like to suit you, so these things don't have to cost a fortune.
No, of course,
they're minimal charges, aren't they? So, and there's some of the things are even provided for free, so it's not like an extra kind of concern or investment or anything like that, as far as
I think at the moment, especially because there's a lot of offers on a lot of technology that is becoming more important than it was before. So it's just
Yeah, but you must be careful with those offers because they're probably time limited, and in their clauses and terms and conditions, there's a thing that will say the trial period will end and then you'll be charged. So yeah, always look at the contracts before you sign up to those that look like freebies. Make sure you read the terms, or get in contact with Mushroom. We'll happily look at them.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thank you very much, guys, talking about remote working. Is there anything else that you want to add that we haven't talked about over this interview?
No, I think we've touched on technology, we've touched on risk assessments, we've looked at mental health, we've looked at what businesses should do if they're looking to reintegrate their staff. And yeah, I think it's just remaining maybe overall, just keep positive, keep your head up, get stuck in, do the work. Just because you're working from home, it might be different, but you know what? This is the new normal, and we've been doing it for the last 4 months. You know, hopefully it doesn't continue for much longer. But if it does, then we are well prepared in the way we've accustomed to this way of work. Let's make sure that we remain productive and keep doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's just being able to have common sense and also have a flexible approach at the moment. Like home working might be working now, and you might decide that you may want to try it out as a more permanent option when things start to return to normal. A lot of companies have already said they're not going to be opening their offices until 2021. So just make sure that you keep all of that under review and just keep reviewing the situation as it goes along, keeping everybody who needs to be informed, and just come to a decision that you think best suits your business, and also keep your staff informed and communicated with them, and then hopefully your business can perform perhaps better than it did in the office space. But and also think about the pros of doing both. So if you think from September, I think a quarter of businesses are looking at returning to their office spaces. Think about whether you could do a bit of both, whether you could work in the office for a bit and then work from home for a couple of days a week, so that you've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that would help the business itself, particularly in terms of overheads, in terms of electricity costs. I know we haven't really touched on it, but obviously businesses' carbon footprint is really important, and businesses are looking at a way to cut costs and ensure that their carbon footprint is reduced. You know, less people making tea, the better.
Well, thank you very much. So if anybody's watching this video now and they're kind of like, oh, I just don't know what to do, I'm a bit stuck, I'm kind of like, I'm half this way, I'm half that way, my employees this, and what could they do? How could Mushroom help, I guess?
So definitely we're offering free HR consultation calls at the moment. So also that ties in with our GDPR and legal and accounting elements of the business. So by all means, get in contact. We've got links on the website to set up a 45-minute appointment, I believe, where you can just pose questions to us, explain your position and ask what you're confused about, or even suggest what you would like to do, but you're not quite sure how to put it in place. And we'll definitely help and go through all of that with you.
Okay, so there's a free 45-minute consultation for any like advice or information or anything like that needed for people.
Yeah, of course. Brilliant. Yeah, we'll definitely help. And yeah, if you just send us an email or give us a call, we'll definitely know. Even if you think, well, that's not actually about HR or it's not about this, I'm not sure whether they would be able to deal with this, just, get in touch and we'll try and help in any way we can.
Yeah, I mean, Mushroom, we kind of, operate in quite a few areas, don't we, as opposed to business support. So yeah, we definitely will help if
we can. Yeah, no, of course. We're very sector agnostic. So you mentioned the one-man bands, but we operate across such a broad range of sectors. There's probably nothing we haven't already done before.
Yeah,
So yeah, they're more than welcome to get in touch, and if we can help, then that's what we want to do. We want to see businesses grow and succeed, and if we can be a part of that journey, then yeah, we just get in touch.
That's why we do what we do, don't we?
No, we do what we do.
Oh, thanks so much, Josh and Charlotte. It's been lovely.
Thank you very much, Kim.
All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks.
Cheers,
Have a good day.
Bye. Cheers,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.